All right, we are recording now. Are you good, Haylie?
Yes.
Okay. So, hey, everybody. I am Darcy. I am the creator of the Vibrant Woman course and community. I'm also a certified Doman International Neurological Evaluator. I'm an expert Doman Method mom. This is part of the Vibrant Woman series, and I am so excited today to introduce you all to my most favorite vibrant woman ever. This is my daughter, Haylie, who has
Hi, everyone.
she's agreed to give us a little time on this very cold New Year's afternoon to share her wisdom. And I tell you, if I had just had a recording device on some of our long talks on car rides or, evenings cooking together, that's what inspired this idea to bring Haylie into the Vibrant Woman interview series and really just sort of unleash her and let her share her wisdom with you. So that's what the plan is for the next half hour or so. Okay. Right. Haylie, thank you for being here and taking this time with me and all the people who want to watch and learn from you.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
So I just want to say, I want to just do a tiny little brief introduction about you. And then I really want you to introduce yourself because I have this whole theme has really emerged in our lives because of you. This idea that, that we need to be careful using labels, right? So I'm not just, I can use, there's a couple labels I think are pretty non-toxic. Like I can call you my daughter. Maybe. And so I want to be careful because I know you are someone, and I'm going to invite you to talk about this. You're somebody who's grown up sort of with the burden of a long list of labels. And so I think what the power of hearing you speak about it directly, rather than all the ways in my work these days, my writing and speaking and teaching, I refer to what I've learned from you and what you teach me. And often I tell people what you say, but it's a whole nother thing to hear it directly from you because there's a whole lot of moms out there right now, Haylie, who are where we used to be. So they've got their moms like I was, not understanding why their child is struggling. And we got lucky. So here's the story, everybody. Haylie was brain injured when she was 12 days old. Her name actually means, and I named her not having absolutely no clue how she was going to live up to this. Haylie, your name means like hero, full of grace. And you're the graceful hero. And it's so true. You have just come forth with such a power and a passion and an insight that I think comes specifically from having a hero's journey. And what that means, like in ancient literature and stuff, is just somebody who had to go through a really, really hard time to become the greatness that they were destined to be. So I actually had a dream right before you were born. I don't know if I ever told you this, that it kind of clued me in that some big things were going to be coming with you. And so sure enough, at 12 days old, Haylie came down with a spinal meningitis. You can read more about that on my blog. You'll eventually read more about that in my upcoming book. And it was a pretty traumatic whirlwind event that shaped both who we are as people, the path that we had to follow, and definitely our relationship for better or worse, right? We've talked a little bit about our trauma bonding. But with that history of brain injury then, and the pain that I experienced in watching my daughter potentially not be able to do the things that the other kids, the normal kids could do. I went on a search then for a program of neurological rehabilitation that allowed Haylie to outgrow these problems. So that was long. You knew I was going to talk a lot. I'm sorry, that's who I am. But I do want to turn it over to you now because I don't want to label you. When you introduce yourself these days, you probably don't tell that story, do you?
Not at all.
Right. How do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Haylie. I'm a senior at Indiana University studying community health and minoring in entrepreneurship and nutrition science. I love all of these programs because they give me the knowledge and the abilities I need in order to go out there and change the world for the better. Within my history, I've learned a lot about health and diet and about being healthy from the very beginning, not just take a pill and get healthier when you have a problem, but living it out so those problems don't even come about. and I want to gain more knowledge so I can go out there and people will listen to me and I can do what I need to do to help other people overcome their health issues. So also they won't develop any, or if they already have them, like Alzheimer's or diabetes or cancer, to help them realize they can overcome them and that they don't have to live with their quote unquote label and disability. Even though it may not be exactly the same as mine, it's still a label that you can overcome. So I want to learn these things I need to learn in order to have the knowledge and abilities and leadership skills I need to go out there and change the world, because I'm really passionate about it and I want to do that every day. I wake up every day saying, hopefully tomorrow I can do that.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk a little bit about how both your personal experience and then what other experiences did you have that made you realize the power of nutrition and healthy lifestyle and the connection between that and sort of these, Haylie and I are both going to do this a lot, like labels, because I think what we're trying to signal is that we don't necessarily buy into any permanence around that. Do you want to talk about what drove you in this direction, would you say?
Well, my history, because I was given a lot of labels: brain injury, dyslexic, all these terms. I don't even know what half of them mean that define the symptoms of the problem. But I learned that either way, the brain is not doing what it needs to do because it's not getting everything it needs to have. And that no matter what label or symbol you put on it, it can be overcome, no matter if you're a little girl like me or you're a grown person like my mom or older, my grandparents, great grandparents, that it's only a label we use to talk about it in society. But through my experience, I've learned it, and I feel this way still, that it doesn't define who I am.
Yeah. That's tricky though, isn't it?
Very tricky, because the society will say, based on your symptoms or how they judge you, learn to judge you based on experience. If you have these symptoms, you're this term.
You're this
if
thing.
You have those
Yeah.
symptoms, you're defined as this thing. And they use these special terms to do it, but those don't apply to me at all. Even overcoming the brain injury, I didn't feel like in the end they did, because I'm like, I just have a problem that I can solve. I don't have a term that there's something wrong. I just see a problem and I can go out there and solve it.
Right.
And I'm not stupid or bad or anything because of this label that society is choosing to put on me. That's their problem. I'm a great person either way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love the way you say that. I think this might be a good moment just to show people what we're talking about. I'm going to share my screen for a minute. Are you okay if I show a few of those photos?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so hold on. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. I'm going to share a couple of photos just to give people an understanding of when we talk about where Haylie has come from, what we are really talking about. So she was brain injured at 12 days old. This is Haylie. This is you at about 5. And I don't know if everybody can see there. Aren't you beautiful? But look at that eye. Look at that right eye crossed into the corner. And that was a fairly mild moment. So you had what we call a bilateral alternating convergent strabismus. And that's a pretty fancy way of saying that the cortex of your brain could not control the muscles so that the eyes were moving in unison. And when they don't move in unison, when you see a child that looks like this, I just want to say this story for a second. This is just one example of what it's like to live with this kind of marginalization in a society that doesn't really understand. So we look at this, we see someone that looks like this and we say, wow, that's a pretty severe strabismus. Life for that person must be pretty challenging, because if you don't have convergent vision, you also don't have depth perception. And depending on how your cortex deals with this sort of chaotic input, some people will switch from eye to eye. Some people will end up going cortically blind in one eye because it's a lot of, it's 2 different images coming in all the time. Do you remember this phase of your life at all?
Yeah, it's very hard to see. I tripped and fell a lot because I didn't have the depth perception, especially in my right area, because my right eye had the most trouble at the time. Mm-hmm. It was hard to read. I would really want to read and try to understand and read, but my eyes would jump all over the page. So I had to start over all the time, and I never could get down the page, not even across a sentence.
Mhm.
So it was very difficult.
Yeah. And then the signs of that difficulty were, your frustration, you would act out, right? And so from my point of view, before I understood all of this and the neurological organization and that it could even be fixed and then how to fix it, I mean, you're just screaming all the time. And, I was trying to stop you from screaming, but I was probably screaming at you to stop screaming. Like, it was just this very high combustible energy of frustration all the time, right? Because you were just trying to deal with a situation that was hard.
Very hard. I'm just trying to deal with it and keep up and try to just live with the situation. And it was hard all the time. I had to try to just live with it, but it was very difficult.
Yeah. And then even more difficult.
Couldn't really have fun in life. I had to
Mm.
make sure I was okay and I could get around.
Yeah. So I was going to tell a couple of quick stories here too, just for the other moms to help identify. So for other moms to resonate with this too. We were in the car one time at the gas station, maybe, and somebody was nearby helping, and they came out. I don't know, but a passerby kind of said something, like looked at you and kind of laughed and said to me, "Oh, she's so cute when she does that," meaning like crossing your eyes. And I actually had to say to that person, like, it would be cute if she could help it. Right? She can't help it. And you talk about fun, like we thought we would have fun. Who doesn't have fun going to the circus or whatever, right? So we took you to the circus, and do you remember that at all?
Yeah, it wasn't fun at the time because it was
Miserable.
way too loud, and
Mhm.
I'm very bothered by sounds back then, and
Mhm.
even a clicking timer or clock would really bother me. Just the noise of it, way too much noise.
Yeah, and like all the flashing strobe lights, and then the lights going out in the dark, and the music, and all that stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you cried and screamed and complained most of the time, and I was probably mad at you because I was trying to do something to help you have fun, and it wasn't fun, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. No. So let's just go through the slideshow really quick. So that strabismus was a problem. Haylie mentioned the sound. She also had hypersensitivity to sounds and touch. You were hypersensitive to touch, especially on your shoulders, back, head, kind of upper.
Upper and also my feet.
Mm.
I didn't, especially my left foot. Didn't like it to be touched. It was very sensitive.
I don't know if you remember these, this is an EEG, because another one of the symptoms of your brain injury, another label that you got to have on papers everywhere, and every doctor we saw, was this label of epilepsy, right? Excuse me. And so this is an EEG that we had done. There are all the electrodes you can see in this picture, plus all the ones like that's repeated all over your head. So do you remember these at all?
Not really. That was too long ago.
Yeah. And
it doesn't look fun.
No, especially because you were so hypersensitive to touch on your head. Really, by the time they had you all wired up, because so they had to make these measurements and mark with colored pens and stuff where to put them. And by the time we even got all of that done, you would be so upset. Yeah. And then they were going to watch your brain waves for a while. So this one was sleep deprived, way to keep you up all night. They were hoping to trigger a seizure. Yeah. Right. Okay. So there was all of that stuff. Then we found the program, the Doman Method program, when we did a program of neurological organization, right? Just as it sounds, to basically help the brain outgrow these problems, to help the brain heal so it could do what it was supposed to do. So there she is, brachiating. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it hurt my hands, and
It did?
and sometimes my hands even peeled because it was so rough on them. I did it every day that my skin would peel. It would hurt.
Yeah, but did you eventually love this or no?
Eventually.
Yeah, you
But
had
in the
some
beginning,
skill.
and sometimes it still bothered me a little bit because I didn't like how my hands still peeled, my skin from it.
Like a gymnast, you had some skill there, girl, though. You could go like skip a rung and forwards and backwards and twisting. And so this was part of the program. This was part of the
that. That
like
was fun.
Anti-gravity.
Yeah.
Tell me what
You
you
get to jump around and just be silly and do flips and twists and turns and things I normally wouldn't even know how to do. I was in a circus then, like.
Right. It was responsible for a lot of your vestibular growth and development. So after this is when we really saw your balance improve.
Mhm.
Interesting, huh? Yeah, that was a pretty fun time, wasn't it? Patterning. You want to talk about, do you remember
That
pattern?
was the worst part. That was some of the worst parts. I like the kitty. The animals always tried to come up and make me feel better, but
Yeah.
I did not like people touching me and telling me what to do. That was not a comfortable part.
Yeah. There were many patterning sessions, yeah, that you were used to spit, actually. The person who did the cheeks, like you'd spit.
I remember spitting, and I also remember trying to bite people. That was the best part.
Try to bite people, whoever was doing your cheeks. And it would be like, ooh, we'd have to draw straws. Like nobody wants to do cheeks because they're going to get the worst of it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to ask you a question here, but I'll wait one more minute. So I just want to say this to the moms out there. If you get this as a part of your program, don't worry. Not every child is going to hate it as much as Haylie did. But also if you have a kid who hates it, yeah, you won't be there forever. So I just want to say that as a little encouragement to the moms. This is a picture of you work. This was actually when you had started school. We tried school for a little while. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did.
You loved it socially, I think, didn't you? But it was really, you struggled a lot.
Yeah, I love going to see friends and riding the bus and being out in the world away from just my mom and grandparents for some time and getting out there. But with the cross eyes and the noise, it was hard to read and keep up and too overwhelming.
Yeah, you'd come home pretty frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then so that program of neurological organization that we did, and there is the senior Mr. Glenn Doman, rest his soul, right? So
Yes.
eventually you outgrow, I guess the other thing I want to bring up here and let you talk about this. So when I talk about your story, and I can stop sharing now, but when I talk about your story, I say things like, you know, my daughter who outgrew her brain injury and who outgrew all of these problems. I mean, that's not completely 100% true, is it? Because you still have a brain.
Right. It's true. I don't have those problems anymore. So I outgrew the symptoms and the labels to a certain extent, but I still have a brain just like everybody else that if you don't take care of on a regular basis, you're not going to be able to do the things you want and need to do. So you still have to take care of your brain just like you take care of your house or your child or your car or anything else in order to keep it working and functioning. You can fix the problems, but they might come back if you don't continue working to keep your brain working and functioning the way it needs and giving it everything it needs to do so.
You want to talk about what that looks like for you now? Because one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here, in my Vibrant Woman interview series, right? Because I've been interviewing other kinds of women from different backgrounds for different reasons, talking about what makes them vibrant. And you are the most vibrant person I know, just meaning you're alive and healthy and vibrating and passionate, and you're so well, and you're so committed to your self-care. So will you talk just a little bit about what that looks like for you these days?
Well, it's doing what I'm passionate about. So with my college degree, it's getting a degree that I know I can gain the knowledge and help people because that's really what I want to do. So that's part of it. But it's also taking care of myself through college. So not going out to parties, not drinking a lot of alcohol, having some fun, but also making sure that I'm exercising and eating the foods I need to eat that help my brain grow and have the fat it needs to remember everything I'm trying to put in it and learn. And also getting enough sleep at night so that it can grow and change and restore all the neurons and things that were used during the day so that I can wake up again the next day and hit it again.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's different, isn't it? I mean, you're pretty, and this will, I think, take us into the next topic. I really wanted to ask you a bit about marginalization, but I think you comfortably live in the margins right now. Like you're a pretty atypical college student, right? I mean, you're not out partying, you're not distracted by a bunch of social endeavors. Not that there's anything wrong with having a social life, right? But I mean, you're just very committed to the things that matter to you, and you're not easily distracted by that, right?
Yeah, not at all. I don't let anyone, not even my mom, distract me. If I want something, everybody else in a nice way better watch out. I'm going to study until I understand everything I need to learn to pass the test, to go out there and change the world like I want to do. When that means eating and going to bed on time so I can get up and go to class, I do that. My friends and my family invite me to late night dinners and things. And sometimes depending on the time, I have to say, no, I have to get to bed because I have class early in the morning and I want to make sure I'm well rested so I'm able to go tackle all those things I'm trying to do every day. Mm. So I don't let even if it's invited to go party or have fun or do something, I weigh the pros and cons, in the long run. Is it really fun? Or am I going to wake up tired in the morning and not do well learning the things I need to learn and then not do well on the test that is coming up? And then I'm not able to do and succeed in the things I want and need to do that help me in the long run, change the world like I really want to do. So yeah, I always weigh the pros and cons and don't let anybody distract me or tell me otherwise. I set my mind to something and I go for it, no matter what.
Absolutely. Can we talk about tests?
Sure.
What do you want to say about, so I just want to say this to people out there. And if there are other parents watching who have done a Doman Method program or another program of neurological organization, you may have learned the philosophy that we did, which is actually raising my daughter and homeschooling her. Don't test, right? Put it in. There's this whole sort of system of storage and retrieval that happens with the brain. And this is part of the treatment of the brain injury, right? Is to teach the brain how to learn, how to store and retrieve information. And so there's a technique to that, but also this idea that testing is ultimately kind of a disrespectful thing to do, right? It's like a prove it kind of thing. And it's definitely an element, it's a toxic element of our toxic culture. And so Haylie grew up being homeschooled by me, for better or for worse. And, I don't know if she's wanted to go into all of that, right? I did some great things and I did some terrible things and we had some success and I made some big mistakes. And she survived all of that pretty well, which allows me to sleep at night. But this whole idea of testing. So once you got out into the system there and you had to go to community college and get into university, you hit the whole world of testing. Do you want to talk about your experience with that? How you feel about it?
I hit testing ever since high school.
Yeah.
And in order to get into college, I couldn't be homeschooled anymore. I had to learn these things, English and math and Spanish and foreign language and government and economics in this way by this time, or you don't have a high school diploma. And in order to get into college, I have to have that high school diploma. So ever since high school, I've had to give up the fun of learning to a certain extent and kiss the system's butt in order to get to the next level where I want to be. Learn these things, do it this way, take our test, answer these questions, answer it correctly. There's no almost there, almost right. It's you get the right answer or you don't. It's black or white. And ever since high school, I've been having to do that. And it's been challenging. Some classes are more challenging than others to do that. And some tests are more challenging than others. But overall, it's just been an overwhelming system that I got to play these horrible games just to get what I want. The SAT was the most horrible test that I had to take. And according to the SAT, I'm not ready to read or write at the college level. However, all my English classes and all my other classes that are based on reading and writing ability, I make A's and B's in. So we judge people by their SAT score on if they're ready for college, but I didn't pass the SAT and I'm still able to read and write at the college level. I'm a senior, almost done. So our system doesn't always test what it needs to test, and it blocks out people like me who are really capable of a lot, who just can't do exactly what you want me to do the way you want me to do it.
On the time.
Yeah. This time right now.
Yeah.
Compared to when I was done with the SAT and I was standing there talking to the teacher, they're like, oh yeah, you're answering these questions right and telling me right. You just didn't obviously have enough time to answer every single one of them based on the time limit we gave you. Mm-hmm. But yet they judge me on how smart I am based on that system. Mm. So in the beginning, it really bothered me, but now I'm learning to just get through the system. And like I said, just kiss their butt, so to speak, and just make it through as best I can to just whirl my way through the system and get higher up to really learn what I need to learn, to go out there and do what I want to do. It's more about now the learning than what the piece of paper says.
Yeah, it makes my mama's heart sigh a little bit because, if I could fix or change that world to be more accommodating, more understanding, certainly would. I think one of the ways that we can help make important changes for other kids who are kind of coming up with these same problems is to continue to educate people, right? So for example,
Absolutely.
yeah, can you say more about that? Because you have lived in the margins of both the medical system and the education system, because you sort of presented as this person who see that, you have some contradictions, right? Because, your eyes are crossed. So we make judgment about what that means. And you trip and fall down a lot. We make a judgment about what that means. But you're so bright and you can do all these other things. And so, the world just doesn't really know what to make of people with quote unquote disabilities, because they don't understand what that is in a neurological context. What do you want to say about that? If anything.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
But that although we have medical school and psychology classes, and obviously the human being has learned a lot about the brain and the way the human body works in medicine and in psychology and everything, we're still very much lacking the knowledge we need to really serve people in the world like myself who are brain injured or have certain problems that they can't do because part of their brain isn't functioning the way it needs to. And they're labeled based on those symptoms, but we're really not looking at all to solve the problem. We're just labeling them and putting them in group homes or giving them the disability accommodations or giving them medications that just hide the symptoms. We're all about symptoms. What does it look like on the outside? We're not at all interested yet in why is it happening? Mm-hmm. And we really need, as a society and a place, to find and realize what those are, so then everybody can be more equal and understanding and get along with each other in the world. Because they really just don't understand it, but it's not just not misunderstanding, it's that we're not even willing to look outside of what we already know and expect to solve a problem. There's no innovation. It's our way and we have the right way, and you question that, well, you're bad. I try to question and change things too, and now I'm the bad guy. What's wrong with you for doing that? When that was what I had to do in order to be able to go to college. I had to say, wait a minute, those medications don't work. All those disorders you put on me don't work. Mm-hmm. So I had to come out here and step out all by myself, which I'm now very comfortable at doing, mm-hmm. and say, I'm going to find something that actually does work. And unfortunately, nowadays, it's not the mainstream system that so many people are sucked into that actually gets you the results you want to see. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to step out into the unknown, at least it feels unknown right now, and innovate and go a different path in order to get what you want and need, especially if that's brain injury, overcoming a brain injury. Because that's exactly what I had to do. And now I'm more comfortable doing that in college and in my older years that I wasn't originally comfortable with before. But it's absolutely necessary in order to solve the problems, especially of brain injury, that you want and need to solve.
Yeah. So what a lot of folks are using these days is a term, this is another label, but this is a term that helps some of us get it. They use this term invisible disabilities, meaning, so your crossed eyes, that was kind of a visible disability. Like we could see that was something that was different about you until it wasn't. I just want to say to people too, look at her beautiful straight eyes. And do you read now? Is reading still hard?
No, it depends on the topic. Chemistry was a little bit harder of a read than English, but overall it's not anything like it used to be. If I slow down and read it and take my time to try to understand whatever's going on, I will do it.
Yeah. So she reads commercial print, tiny print, college textbook level, and she has never had surgery. So the solution for this convergence problem was not surgery, right? It was just addressing the problem in the brain, in the cortex, right? So I just want to say that
Exactly.
it's pretty miraculous. It's really not a miracle. It's scientifically explainable. And I just wanted to share that for a minute. So anyway, this idea of invisible disabilities, I think that word has helped some of us to understand, oh, what I'm looking at, I might have to look deeper, or I might have to have a more open mind. Yeah. So do you find yourself having to advocate for yourself, like in a mainstream college environment, for some of the things? So yeah, go ahead. Will you talk about that? I was going to ask you a little bit if you wanted to share about your seizures at all or not.
I don't care. Sometimes I have to do that in the mainstream world, but I no longer have to do that in college because I found the student services office through IU that document my disability, and I explain to them what was going on, and they give me paperwork every semester that I get accommodations, I get extra times on exams, I get a flexible absence policy where I don't have to explain my whole history. I just show them the paperwork. They're not allowed, the teacher, they're not allowed to judge me. They have to put those accommodations into effect every semester in their classes. So I just ask the office every semester for new paperwork, and they give it to me, and I provide it to the teacher. And then I get the accommodations like extra time on exams that I need in order to succeed. And so far that has worked for me with what I need to get through college.
Yeah. Why might somebody like you need a flexible absence policy?
Because even though I've overcome so many things, if I get stressed and I start eating not healthy food, then especially the stress and up late at night studying, that triggers a seizure more easily for me. So then I wake up having one. So then I can't remember anything. So then it's not a good idea that I go to class that day. So then I miss class if that's material or an exam. So then sometimes there's participation points, and then I get deducted and I get in trouble and my grade goes down, even though I honestly couldn't help it. Mm-hmm. So since it doesn't always happen, but it occasionally has within my school years, I have that in place to help me. And they have to give me a retake exam or tell me what they taught in class, or accommodate me in some way so I don't fall behind and fail a class just because I had a bad day that day.
Right. Because I just want to say this too, like for some folks, part of the postictal phase of a seizure is not being able to orient yourself in time, or to be able to remember certain things. And so if you didn't have that flexible absence policy, I mean, they would say like, well, why didn't you tell us you were sick? Or why didn't you tell us you weren't coming? Or why? And so honestly, it's almost like a part of it's almost like, it's funny, Haylie, it's almost like it's a day of Alzheimer's. It's all, exactly. I say that like, and right. So you can connect these two things, but it's like, those memories, like those short-term memories are just not there. Right. And
today
it takes,
I can't access that. You're asking me to wiggle my nose or twirl my ears. And today I just can't access that. That's just not a file I can reach. And no matter how hard I try, it's not working today. Come back tomorrow.
And exactly. And come back tomorrow and you're just fine. You're like, what are you talking about? Of course I can remember this and that and the other thing. And I know who I am. Yeah. It's like a very temporary disability, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. That's hard to explain to folks, isn't it?
Very hard. If they expect if it hurts you, it always hurts you. And this is not the case for me.
Mm-hmm. You or a lot of other people just with the same neurological issues, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have the courage and the willingness to help put some words on this for folks, to help them understand. And I think this will help a lot of moms understand their kids. Their kids may not be as articulate as you are yet. Yeah. So I'm thankful for you doing this. What else? Anything else you want people to say? Here's your chance.
Just keep at it. There's parts of it I didn't like, but today I'm overall very happy that I pushed through and kept at it, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be able to be independent. I would always need somebody to take care of me. And although I have family who can help me, I'm mostly independent, deciding my own things and getting my myself around the world and doing what I need to do. And if I hadn't done all the steps I took and pushed on for several years, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be able to do all the things I would have been able to do and that I'm thriving to do today. So I'm just happy I pushed on and didn't let anything stand in my way and didn't get discouraged and kept pushing until I got where I wanted to be.
Yes, ma'am. I have one more question for you. And I want you to be really honest. Did you feel at times like I was treating you as a project?
Sometimes, not always, but okay, but it happened.
Yeah. And how did you deal with that?
As I got older, I tried to talk about it, but in the beginning, I would just tantrum, as my mom would say, or I would just hold it in because I'm not really sure what to say. And I feel like people aren't listening to me. But as I got older, I learned how to talk about it better. And then I would talk about it and tell my family what I felt like they needed to know and do to be able to help me better and make me feel more comfortable and trusting around them.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's something about the way, I was so passionate about wanting to help you. And I think we did use the word fix. We used to say fix you, which is kind of toxic now, right? I mean, I don't feel comfortable saying that now. And that's why I asked you, like, if you felt like a project, like you were something that had to be fixed. On the other hand, that passion, mine, and yours, I mean, drove us to make decisions, to take actions that actually did help you remove some of the problems that you no longer have to live with. So I think there's kind of a lot of people want to see this as either or, like she's a person, not a project. You can't fix her. You just have to love her as she is. And I think there's absolutely truth in that, but I don't think that should stop us from taking the action steps to removing a problem if we had the power to do so. Any insight?
Exactly. It's not either or. That's a paradigm block. It's and you can love them and help them fix it. You can overcome things. You need to stop with that closed mindset on either or. You can say, I'm going to do both. I'm going to be both. I'm going to overcome both these things and not let anyone or anything tell you otherwise. And if you want it, you got to go and fight for it. And sometimes it takes a long time. But in the end, it's very worth it to, when you come out with it, to be able to be independent and be able to read and write and do what you need to do to have a great life and be a good person and serve the world. So I'm very glad that I went through all of that and that I recognize that mindset, but also have overcome it for what it really is.
All right. Well, we're almost ready to wrap up. Before we do, talk to us about what you're doing these days. Tell me about your business.
Well, these days, for the past 11 years, I've been running my own business, Haylie's Handmade. I crochet a variety of different items, kitchen items, pot holders, washcloths, dish scrubbers, all in different shapes and colors. I have a baby collection of blankets, booties, sweaters, anything you can imagine and dream up. I can find a way to crochet it. And you can find all of it over on my website, haylieshandmade.com. So go over there and take a look and find something you'll love and fall in love with and brighten up your home.
Absolutely. So that supports small women-owned businesses. And what are you doing with all the money you make these days? Not that that's our business. I'm inviting you to share, like, what are your goals? What's coming up next for you?
To finish my last 2 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I do that, to consider master's or PhD programs to go into even higher education, to really have even more leadership and knowledge to do what I want to do and change the world. And also to just pay my own way through the world now. I'm an adult and I have my own car payments and my own bills to pay, and every item helps me stay in school and keep a roof over my head and keep my car payment paid so I can be successful. So I want you to go over there and get a nice item for you and help me out at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I could not be more proud of the human being that you are. I love you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom. Is there anything else you want people to know?
I don't think so.
That you're awesome?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm awesome. No matter what, I'm awesome.
that's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Haylie. Thanks for being with us today and for sharing everything that you are and making the world a better place. You've been doing it since you got here. All
I'm
right.
going to keep on with that. And thank you so much.
You're welcome, Lovey. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.